The FBI lied about January 6th. It's official. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about. Big news yesterday on multiple fronts, but without question, one of the biggest, if not the biggest story. And you're not going to see this in the so-called mainstream media, the establishment fake news media complex, which is desperately trying to bury and suppress this story. They can't. So, the Department of Justice Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, yesterday released a report about the FBI's involvement in January 6th. And now we know, my friends, exactly why Christopher Wray resigned on Wednesday. In other words, a day before this report was to be released, because Christopher Wray is a liar. And he's not just a liar. He is a perjurer who lied under oath in front of congressional committee after congressional committee, and frankly deserves to be in jail. Now you know why the Biden regime is floating preemptive pardons for Chris Wray. People are like, what does Chris Wray need a preemptive pardon? Now we know. Along with Hillary Clinton, along with Adam Schiff, and you can run down the whole list. Everybody now wants a preemptive pardon. Christopher Wray repeatedly told both the Senate and the House, when pressed, were there undercover FBI agents? Were there FBI assets? Were there quote-unquote confidential human sources deployed on January 6th, whether within the crowd or were any of them entering or breaching the Capitol on that day? His answer, none. Zero. Not to my knowledge. He's a liar. As Inspector General Michael Horowitz pointed out in his official report, at a minimum, there were 26 FBI confidential human sources, FBI assets, that were planted in the crowd that day. In fact, Horowitz explains that through the report's findings, they found that FBI field offices picked out certain key sources, FBI assets, and had them specifically go to Washington on January 6th to stalk, spy, and surveil people they identified, I swear to you, as quote-unquote domestic terrorists. So, certain Trump supporters, and we want to find out the names, because parts of the report are redacted. We want to know, who did they think that went on that fateful day was a domestic terrorist? Because throughout the report, he keeps saying again and again, the FBI believed certain individuals were domestic terrorists. They were going to go to the rally in support of Donald Trump to not certify the election. And so they had FBI confidential sources surveil these people, blend themselves into the crowd, pretend to be MAGA supporters. And this is how they were able to spy and surveil what happened on that fateful day. Furthermore, not only were there 26 that we know of, undercover confidential human sources working on behalf of the FBI, at least 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, at least 4 breached the Capitol. They deliberately went into the Capitol. Okay, with the rest of the protesters. And yet, not one of the 4 was charged. Not one of the 4 FBI assets, the FBI confidential sources, were charged. even though they broke the law. So you've got J6ers, and I mean, this is literally what happened, including grandmothers who walked around the Capitol for a couple of minutes, taking a picture with a police officer. By the way, invited in by the Capitol Police. This needs to be stressed again and again. Doors opened, waved in, come on in, as they opened the doors. And so these old ladies are taking pictures of the beautiful paintings and the architecture. They walk around for 5 or 10 minutes. They're even taking a selfie with a smiling Capitol Hill police officer. 10 years in jail. The FBI spent 2, 3, in some cases 4 years tracking down Granny. Many of them wearing face masks. So they had to, all this effort to, well, imagine this person without a face mask and all the digital technology. And then they would track them down, and they're rotting in prison for years, sentenced. While we now know definitively, according now to the FBI's own admission in this explosive report by the Inspector General Michael Horowitz, FBI undercover assets, FBI confidential sources stormed and breached the Capitol. Nothing. Nothing. Not even a slap on the wrist. Nothing. Now, what the report does not address, and this is where I'm hoping Kash Patel, once he is confirmed as the new FBI director, will go and do a thorough, complete, exhaustive investigation, and this time overcome the institutional FBI stonewalling and ask the big questions, which is, why weren't these 4 charged? Who were these 4? And were they egging the crowd on? A la Ray Epps. And this is the one that really sticks in my craw. We have Ray Epps on video. It's indisputable. Wearing a MAGA hat and telling the J6ers, storm the Capitol, storm the Capitol. In fact, he said it the day before the rally. We've got to storm the Capitol. We've got to take the Capitol. And then the day of, he's yelling and screaming, go get him, get inside, go inside, go inside. Ray Epps, according now to multiple media reports, was clearly an undercover FBI asset. Why did he only get a slap on the wrist? Why is Granny rotting 10 years in jail? But this guy, who clearly incited the mob, who clearly incited people to storm the building, we've got him dead to rights. And he gets a lousy slap on the wrist? Practically nothing in terms of his punishment? And that's only after years and years and years of massive public pressure to hold this guy accountable? I want to know once and for all how much of an FBI asset Ray Epps was, who controlled him, who directed him, who oversaw him, what field office did he report to, and what did Christopher Wray know, and when did he know it? Now, the conclusion here is inexorable. The report is damning as hell. And by the way, again, a complete vindication for Donald Trump. A complete vindication of those who've been defending the J6ers. Frankly, Kuhner country, again, we should take a bow. I'm serious. Complete vindication of everything that we've been saying since January 6, 2021, for the last almost 4 years. The FBI played a pivotal, instrumental role in infiltrating the crowd, in inciting and egging the crowd on, and in even storming the Capitol. And yet they have tried to hide this fact in the shadows. Now, Did the January 6th committee of Benny Thompson and Adam Piece of Schiff and Liz Cheney, did they know about the FBI's involvement? And that's why they destroyed so much evidence? Kash Patel needs to investigate and find out. The January 6ers, based now on this evidence, every single conviction should be overturned. Every single one of them. Our own government framed the protesters. Our own government infiltrated the protests. Our own government was involved in the storming of the Capitol. And then they tried to frame and blame Donald Trump. This was planned. It was coordinated. It was premeditated. Free the J6ers. Trump has vowed on day one that he is going to pardon almost all of the J6ers. Wave this report like a bloody shirt and then go after the corrupt FBI, every single one of them. 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868. I mean, I'm not surprised. I know many of you are not surprised. It is now, however, official. There is no getting around it. The Department of Justice, the department that the FBI is based in, its own Inspector General, looked at the role of the FBI in January 6th. It was tasked by Congress to do so. And Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, the AG, came out with absolutely bombshell conclusions that the FBI had undercover assets, undercover agents, 26 of them they found so far, that penetrated, infiltrated, and were part of the J6 protests. In fact, they were spying on people in the crowd. They were surveilling. 4 of them literally breached the Capitol. We know about Ray Epps. How many other Ray Epps were there? That's the question now that needs to be asked. Now, furthermore, it's now obvious that the J6 committee found out about the FBI's secretive, nefarious role in their inciting the crowd, in infiltrating the crowd, and even into breaching and storming the Capitol. And yet none of that came out. It was suppressed and the evidence was destroyed. Now, as many of you are pointing out in text after text after text, and by the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Jeff, can you imagine, by the way, this is from 212. Jeff, can you imagine what would happen to you or anyone else in your audience if you destroyed evidence from a congressional investigation in order to cover up government fraud and FBI corruption? Of course you can. You'd go to prison, full stop. So why are Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff any different? I thought, quote, nobody is above the law, unquote. Brilliant. Brilliant. And here's another one. And this one is with a picture. And it's the picture of people at the steps of the Capitol. And what now appear, people are now saying, well, who are these dressed in MAGA hats? Who are all these people dressed as Trump supporters? Which one of these are undercover FBI agents? Which ones are these confidential human sources that we know the FBI had planted into the crowd? And the question then is, which 26 were there with, battling the police, storming the steps, trying to kick down the door, trying to get in. Maybe, are they the ones who tore down the barricades? Are they the ones that were yelling and screaming, get in there, like Ray Epps? Was he the only one, or were there others? Take the Capitol, storm the Capitol. Now, as 508 points out, Jeff, another conspiracy theory proven to be the truth. The government now admits that the FBI had 26 confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6th, and most of them committed crimes, but none of them have been charged. That's why we need Kash Patel. That's why they fear Kash Patel. And on a side note, but it's very relevant, that's why they fear Tulsi Gabbard. Now they're really trying to smear her as a Russian agent, as a quote-unquote Russian asset. And remember, that smear came from Hillary Clinton. It was the Clintons that launched that vicious McCarthyite smear on no evidence whatsoever. Why? Because she's now going to be, if confirmed, the director of national intelligence. So she's going to be overseeing the NSA, the CIA, the DIA, all of our intelligence communities, and all of the sensitive classified information that they've been deliberately withholding from the American people. And so she's going to be able to see, like Kash Patel, if he's director of FBI, or Pam Bondi, who's going to be the attorney general. What's this? What did the FBI do on January 6th? Are you kidding me? They insinuated themselves into the crowd? They infiltrated the crowd? And no one got arrested? They were egging the crowd to take the building? 4 of them that we know of, literally broke into the Capitol? All 26 of them committed crimes? All 26? And yet none of them have been charged? Donald Trump was framed. The J6 protesters were framed. I mean, it's so obvious. This is classic entrapment. That's what the FBI did. And you're telling, and now, by the way, now you know why. I know I said it in the opening monologue, but it bears repeating. Now you know why that snake, Christopher Wray, resigned on Wednesday, or announced his resignation on Wednesday, to be more precise, a day before this report. Christopher Wray now needs to be held accountable. The J6 committee needs to be held accountable. And every dirty FBI agent now needs to be held accountable. Agree, disagree. 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so I'm going to go to the phone lines, I promise. But just before I do, this is a really, really good message that I got from Mark on Messenger. Jeff, so they finally admitted that 26 FBI informants participated in the planned Fedsurrection of January 6th. But why did it take 4 years for this to publicly come out when we already knew this anyway? And isn't it funny, just a few days ago, Christopher Wray said he was stepping down as FBI director when the Trump administration takes over, and now this comes out. What a coincidence. Newsflash, Mr. Wray, you're a friggin' coward. You're stepping down knowing you are going to get fired anyway. Oh, how noble of you. Hashtag busted. Mark is completely right. Absolutely, completely right. Christopher Wray's a snake. Absolute snake in the grass. Trying to protect himself and trying to protect his top people around him. And no, I'm sorry, they can't. How can you get away with this? Now we know definitively an official report from the Department of Justice, their own Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, who interviewed FBI officials, field offices, countless witnesses, and he found minimum. I think the number is much higher. If you want my honest opinion, I think 26 is the tip of the iceberg. And by the way, he does point out in the report, many did not talk to him. You know, this is not the complete story, but he was able to dig up valuable information. And so, contrary to what the FBI told us, Christopher Wray under oath told us, what Merrick Garland told us. Remember, Merrick Garland said there were no FBI confidential sources. There were no FBI assets. So contrary to what Merrick Garland told us, that other liar, contrary to what the media, and at this point, in all honesty, I don't know how much more discredited they can be. The corrupt corporate fake news media. Because all they are mouthpieces for the deep state. So they just keep repeating and regurgitating the lies of the deep state. Remember, the role of the media was historically to be skeptical of power, to challenge power, to be a check and balance on power, to hold power and political and powerful politicians and bureaucrats and agencies accountable, not to parrot what they say and just blindly repeat it ad nauseum, and then destroy anybody who has the guts to challenge the official orthodoxy and the official propaganda narrative. So again, in the face of 4 years of media lies, FBI lies, Merrick Garland, DOJ lies, it's all come out. 26 undercover informants infiltrated the protests on J6. Almost all of them committed crimes. 4 of them breached the Capitol. I'm sorry. I want to know. Did Biden know? Did Garland know? Did Christopher Wray know? I know they knew, but you got to and hold these people accountable. This Republicans need now to put Horowitz himself, the Inspector General, the IG, under oath in front of a big congressional committee, TV cameras everywhere, and let the American people know our own government was involved on January 6th. And they helped incite it, they helped instigate it, and they were trying to frame Trump and the J6ers. This was an inside job. And finally, we get to Nancy Pelosi. Now we know why, definitively, she turned down the 10,000 National Guard troops that Trump offered 3 days before January 6th. Now we know why, in a documentary by her own daughter, when January 6th takes place, Pelosi's panicking and saying, I'm responsible for this. We're responsible for this. I turned down the security because she knew about the FBI's nefarious role. And so I want to know, did she greenlight it? How far does this go? And if I'm a J6er, and you know we've had J6ers call this show before, I'm going to urge every J6er, please call. I'm going to go to you right away. You're rotting in jail? Some of them, mothers, literally mothers, who just were on the steps of the Capitol. They didn't even go inside. 6 months, 8 months, 9 months in prison. And it's not just the prison sentence, it's the criminal record. You're almost practically considered a terrorist. You can't fly. You can't hold down a job. I mean, this thing haunts you wherever you go. You're a pariah. And you've destroyed how many lives? And the whole time you were in on it? And by the way, as Horowitz points out, not a single FBI asset, not a single undercover informant, no matter what crimes they committed, were charged of a single crime. I'm sorry, this is beyond disgusting. 2 words, Kash Patel. We want Kash Patel. It's time to clean house, man. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Chris, in the great state of New York. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. It's an honor to speak with you. I've emailed you many times. God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you. You're welcome. Welcome. Please, Chris, go ahead.
We all love you. So I'm listening to you speak since 6 o'clock, and I go online to quote unquote verify what you're saying. I have Microsoft Bing, and I search Inspector General January 6th report, and I get a whole page of UPI, CNN, AP, WAPO, Politico, Hill, USA Today. No FBI agents involved. No undercover FBI agents. No undercover FBI. FBI did not deploy. FBI did not have undercover agents.
Unbelievable.
So, which one of us is crazy, me or you? Okay? This is a whole page. Who's going to sit through this? In all fairness, they have 3 links that say read the report. Who's going to read the report? I mean, this is propaganda at its best. Their trick is that they're so good at this, they're calling them agents and employees, whereas I think we're calling them assets. It's just insane.
Well, yeah, look, Chris, I mean, to be specific. No, yeah, it's even in the executive section of the report. If you want, just read that. It's a big report. It's a thick report, but just read the executive section. It's much shorter, obviously, and it's kind of a summary. And Horowitz lays it all out there. And let me tell you exactly how they're identified in the report, Chris. Confidential human sources. And that's the term that's used. CHS. Confidential human sources. So they're basically, they're FBI, what do you want to call them? FBI informants, FBI assets. In other words, they informally work for the FBI. They're the FBI stooge pigeons. So what CNN does is, well, they weren't, according to them, they weren't technically FBI agents, on the payroll. Who cares? They were run by the field, as Horowitz lays out, they were run by all these field offices. And they were told, spy on this person, spy on that person, watch this person, get into the crowd, tell us what you see, tell us what you find. So they're just playing semantics to cover the rear end of the FBI.
It's propaganda. We're being deceived. There's no end to the lies, okay? It's unbelievable. I just read in the New York Post this morning how that black stripper lied about the lacrosse rapes. It's just too much.
I agree. Chris, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. By the way, that infamous Duke lacrosse case? The stripper now? She literally came out and said, I made the whole thing up. I lied. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, bombshell report. That's the only way I can, characterize it. From the Department of Justice's own Inspector General, Michael Horowitz. He now has confirmed that there were 26, quote-unquote, confidential human sources. In other words, informants, rats, assets, however you want to phrase them, who infiltrated the J6 protest. 4 of them that we know of literally stormed and breached the Capitol. Others incited the crowd to enter the Capitol building. None of them were charged with a single crime compared to those who were not FBI undercover assets. It's beyond disgusting. And this is what Jesse Waters on Fox News put out on X, and I want to read it to everybody. Fox News alert. The Justice Department's bombshell report on January 6 has now dropped. The FBI had 26 quote-unquote confidential human sources there that day. Paid rats in MAGA hats. Over a dozen of these spies participated in the so-called quote-unquote insurrection. Why didn't then FBI Director Chris Wray tell Congress this when he testified under oath? That was my point in my opening monologue. The Democrats tried to gaslight us and said this whole thing was a conspiracy theory. But you were right all along. To me, this is to me unbelievable. Now, it's going around. There is an exchange between Congressman Clay Higgins and Christopher Wray. And Sandy, if you could maybe track it down and get the cut, I would really appreciate it. Clay Higgins at this hearing on January 6th, the FBI's role, its nefarious role, he challenges Chris Wray and he says, no, I don't believe you. There were undercover FBI informants in that crowd. They infiltrated the crowd. Look at Ray Epps. Look at so many others. You are covering up for them. Wray adamantly denies that the FBI had any role whatsoever or that he knew about any of this. And Higgins, Congressman Higgins, says to him, it's going to come out one day. I'm warning you. It's going to come out. Your role in this is going to be completely exposed, and that of your agency. And Shazam, baby, here we are.
Did the FBI have confidential human sources embedded within the January 6th protesters on January 6th of 2021?
Well, Congressman, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have to be very careful about what I can say about when.
Even now, because that's what you told us 2 years ago.
May I finish? About when we do and do not, and where we have and have not used confidential human sources. But to the extent that there's a suggestion, for example, that the FBI's confidential human sources or FBI employees in some way instigated or orchestrated January 6th, that's categorically false.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January the 6th prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people no?
He wouldn't say no. You know why? Because the answer is a yes. That's the answer, damn it. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is sickening. I mean, it makes your stomach turn. And remember, this is not just get the FBI or expose the truth. Chris Wray and his FBI were the ones leading the charge to put all the J6ers behind bars. He was the one that said, lock them all up, burn them to the ground, go to Alaska even, get Granny with an FBI raid, a SWAT team in somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. Because Granny was on the steps of the Capitol. So kick her door down. I'm telling you, literally, that's what happened in one case. It was an old lady. It was a grandmother. They came in 30, 40 agents with the heavy guns, and you would think it was Pablo Escobar. And they kicked her door down, yelling, screaming, put Granny on the ground, slapped the handcuffs. She's a domestic terrorist. And the whole time, he knows he had his people dressed up as MAGA. And they're storming the Capitol. Hey, buddy, go F yourself. I'm sorry, man. You're a pig. You're a pig. How do you sleep with yourself at night? That's what I want to know. And then again, he's lying to Congress. Like, this is what I don't get. When Republicans lie to Congress, it's the crime of the century. It's, and it's perjury, it's obstruction of justice, it's subornation of perjury, it's these guys, they lie in front of Congress like breathing. And it's all no big deal. You and I, we lie under oath, they throw the book at us. These guys, they lie under oath and nothing happens to them. His FBI led the persecution and harassment and the campaign to go after every J6er on the planet. And we find out he and his people were behind J6. And some of his people literally breached and stormed the Capitol. They incited the crowd. They egged the crowd on. Every January 6th conviction must now be overturned. Full pardon across the board. FBI agents that were involved, these dirty agents, they need to be prosecuted. And people who knew about this and kept silent should lose their jobs on the spot. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lawrence and Shrew, and by the way, Sandy, amazing job getting that clip so fast. That was, I say it on the air, and what was that, 20 seconds? 25 seconds? Outstanding job, Mike and Sandy. Lawrence and Shrewsbury. Thanks for holding, Lawrence, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Lawrence.
I want to thank you for covering this very vital issue about the FBI informants infiltrating the crowd on January 6th. I was there that day. May I share with you my observations?
Please, go ahead, Lawrence.
Okay, so did you know that January 6th was actually the third of three planned protests of the 2020 election, the first two being in late November and early December of 2020. Did you know that?
I knew there were protests. I didn't know that it was, three steps, part of a larger series. That I didn't know.
Yes, and I was at all three. I have a picture of me with Congressman Lauren Boebert at the second one in December, standing on the steps of the Capitol. So I can tell you that when I came there on January 6th, I noticed, first of all, that the crowd was 10 times larger than it had been at the other two. And there was an agitation in the crowd that had never been before. I knew something was up. We all came to the ellipse to watch President Trump speak, and as you famously know, he clearly said we're going to go to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically protest, which is exactly what we did. After he finished speaking, we all just casually walked away over to the Capitol. There was no sense of rushing the building or infiltrating anything. Just me and my friend, we were walking towards the Capitol as we had the previous two times. But then as we got toward the building, we noticed there was major disturbance going on. And we didn't know what the heck it was. But as I can tell you, we were not part of any plan to do anything violent. We were just going to go there to listen to more speeches at the Capitol building. And then all of a sudden, I get hit with a wave of tear gas. I couldn't believe it. And my friend helped me, water in my face, get me through the tear gas. And we're at the base of that superstructure they built for the inauguration, on the steps of the Capitol.
Yes.
So we climbed up it, and we got up to the top because we were mad. Why were they tear gassing us? Who was doing this to us? And I can tell you that as I looked around the crowd, there were people in there that didn't fit the profile. All of us were patriotic Americans who had come there to just protest the 2020 election, which we felt had been, fraudulent. And we wanted them to stop the certification that day, so that they could take it back to the states and, investigate the election. And we just stood there and we chanted and we, sang some songs, and we were just there to make our voices heard. And there are people way down in the crowd that are causing trouble, getting in fights with Capitol Police, but it was like 0.1% of the crowd. We didn't know who these people were. Now I know.
Lawrence, I've got to ask you two questions. Number one, I've read repeatedly, I've seen the pictures, I've heard the testimony, I've seen the blood on the face, that Capitol Hill Police, this is before anybody breached the Capitol. And by the way, as you know, they opened the doors. The only way that crowd could have gone into the Capitol is because someone on the inside gave the order to lift the doors, to open that massive door, which is like, weighs several tons, and it can only be opened from the inside. And then they opened the side doors. So nobody could have gone in unless the Capitol Police deliberately opened the doors. That's number one, but let that go. Before the Capitol was breached, there were rubber bullets being fired into the crowd. And we now know, because it's been caught on camera, that it was Capitol Hill Police snipers high up who were just pumping rubber bullets, firing indiscriminately into the crowd in order to get a rise, to really infuriate and enrage people. Did you see, hear, feel rubber bullets whizzing by you or anywhere near you while they threw tear gas at you?
But I can tell you, I was standing at the very top of the scaffolding, that they built for the inauguration. And across from us, right across at the top on the roof of the Capitol building, was hundreds of police in riot gear just standing there. They were, I was within a shouting range of them, and I kept waving toward them to come join us because, we were with them. We were with them. They never shot at me. I never saw them shoot at anybody, no.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Now, this is what I wanted to ask you. A lot of the J6 people say some of them stood out like a sore thumb in the crowd. It was obvious they were feds or undercover informants or confidential human sources or however you want to call them. What was it about the people like Ray Epps? Why did they stand out to people like you? Where you say, no, they're obviously feds. They're obvious, or they're working for the feds, or they're being directed by the feds. Why was it obvious to people like you?
I'd gone to the previous two protests, and you could make out any one of our patriotic supporters by the way that they handled themselves and carried themselves. They weren't in any kind of violent mode whatsoever, just quietly chanting and walking along and singing songs, things like that. But on January 6th, the third of the three protests, you could see people who had sort of a furtive look on their faces, like they were up to something. And they were dressed differently. Their hair would be different types, long, shaggy hair, that kind of thing. And they were wearing Trump gear, but I sensed that they were up to something, yes. There were definitely people who stood out that day.
Interesting. Are you shocked by this, Larry? This bombshell report?
I'm not shocked in the sense that I suspected all along that there were FBI informants. What I am shocked about is that they actually are reporting this for us to know now, and that they now have Christopher Wray absolutely on, I think it's, would you not call it perjury? He stated
dead to rights. They got him dead to rights on perjury. Lawrence, they got him dead to rights. They got him. I mean, they got him 6 ways to Sunday.
Prosecute or have Christopher Wray prosecuted. And maybe, who was the previous FBI director? He wasn't involved. Oh, yeah. Christopher Wray and anyone else involved in setting up the informants on January 6th should be prosecuted. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. Well, that was Comey. The previous FBI director was James Comey.
Yeah, I don't know if he was involved on January 6th. He would have been gone by then, right?
Yeah, no, he was gone by then. Remember Trump fired him?
Yes, okay. Anyway, so thank you so much for reporting this. And by the way...
and thank you. Thank you for this info. This was an invaluable call. Lawrence, please don't be a stranger. Call again, okay? Take care, Lawrence. 617-266-6868 is the number. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good. How are you, Denise?
Good. That guy was absolutely right. I was there too, Jeff. And, when we got there early on a Tuesday afternoon, and everything was great. We went to the monument. We listened to Trump because we couldn't get in. There's too many people to get in there to see him in person. And everything was so peaceful at the monument, listening to him talk and everything. And then we walked down into the Capitol. We were kind of in the big first crowd to get to the Capitol. There was a bunch of us that went together, different cars and stuff. We stayed at a hotel. So we got to the gate, the bottom of the gate before the pond there. There was like a bike gate. So we're standing all out down there, and then the guards, opened the gate and waved us everybody up the hill. That was the first mistake they made, okay? So they waved everybody up the hill. So we're up there now, and we couldn't believe. We looked at each other. We can't believe this is happening. Do you believe they're letting us up here? No, we can't believe it, right? So we get to the top. It was probably 20 feet from the stairs, not too far. And then we were standing there, and some about 15 guys, all like draped Trump supporters, flags hanging over them. We knew they just didn't look like Trump supporters, Jeff. And they're going, "We're going in, we're going in, we're going in." And I looked at Skim and I said, "You want to go in?" He goes, "To you?" And I said, "I don't know." So then we started to walk, not with them, but towards a little further. And all of a sudden we got gas in our face, and it was burning our eyes, so it was burning our eyes. So we looked at each other. We should just get out of here. But we watched the rest of it at the hotel on the TV. But Jeff, Josh Hawley had all that proof, stacks of proof of fraud. Liz Cheney should be locked up. And I wonder what Mike Pence thinks about all this. What do you think? I mean,
no, I think Mike Pence knew. No, I'll be honest with you, Denise. Look, I'm not speaking. I don't know Mike Pence. I don't know his people. I mean, I'm just giving you my unadulterated opinion here. No, I think he knew. I think it was obvious. I mean, it was so obvious to everybody on that day, and especially the days after. This was an inside job, and the deep state, led by the FBI and others, set Trump up. I think there's no question. And look, I'll be honest. I think 26 is, as I said, I think it's just a fraction of how many of them were involved. We're going to be, and I think we're going to be, and look, they're it's a smart move on the part of the DOJ because they know Trump's going to come in power. Okay, in about just almost a month now. And he's going to get Kash Patel in there. It looks like Kash Patel is going to get confirmed. So this is going to come out. So what you do is, I'm just telling you, having worked in Washington all those years, you release a report, but it's not the full report. You kind of water it down, but the shock of it wears off. So throw in 26 FBI informants when the real number was 260 or 400. Well, so now it's 26, 200, 300, 400. Hey, as Hillary said, at this point, what difference does it make? So, in other words, it takes the sting out of when Patel comes out probably with his report, and he's like, the numbers were much higher. But it goes exactly to what you're saying, completely, Denise. They were there to incite and create havoc, chaos, and violence because they didn't want the Senate to hear the speeches laid out by Hawley and Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn, the case to the American people that Joe Biden stole Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and that the case should be that these 4 states, it should be sent back to the states to investigate voter fraud. They didn't want that to take place, so they needed an incident. January 6th was their incident, and they then needed to pin it, to frame Trump and his supporters. And you're right. Liz Cheney needs to go to jail because the January 6th committee knows all of this. In fact, they know a lot more than this. So there was all of this exonerating evidence. And now we know why they destroyed it all. Which, by the way, when you run a committee, you can't just destroy evidence. So they deliberately destroyed evidence to keep the truth from the American people, and they obstructed now justice, and they abused power, and they engaged in a massive cover-up. Liz Cheney knew. Benny Thompson knew. Adam Kinzinger knew. Adam Schiff knew. They all know. Now you know why, and I can cite you story after story after story, where Biden and his lawyers are talking about preemptive pardons. And one of the people at the top of the list is Liz Cheney. And honestly, even people in the liberal media are like, well, why would Liz Cheney need some kind of a preemptive pardon? Like, what the hell has Liz Cheney done? Now we know. Now exactly we know. They destroyed evidence that would have proven our own government and our own FBI's involvement in January 6th. And Denise, I got to tell you, really, I don't know how these poor J6ers languishing in jail, I don't know how they make it for another month. In intolerable conditions, really, behind bars, many of them in isolation, cold, hungry, abused, years of their lives, suffering. Essentially, it's a form of torture. And the whole time you're like, I know the government was behind this. I know we were framed. I know we were set up. And now you hear it and you say to yourself, so all these FBI informants, they get off scot-free? They cover it up for them? But I'm rotting behind bars? Haven't seen my spouse, my husband, or my wife, or my children, or my family? My life has been destroyed and ruined? It's unspeakable. I'm sorry, it's unspeakable. Heads need to roll. Bombshell report from the Department of Justice's own Inspector General, Michael Horowitz. And it confirms everything we've been saying. The FBI had 26, several dozen confidential human sources, as they're called, informants, infiltrators, who were planted within the January 6th protest. We know that several of them, at least a dozen of them, were on the steps of the Capitol. 4 actually breached the Capitol and went inside. So the FBI has been caught hiding, covering up its own involvement on that fateful day. And as Horowitz points out in his report, not a single one of the 26 FBI sources or assets were ever charged with any crime. Beyond disgusting, beyond unbelievable. And my friends, the backlash, I believe now, is going to grow and grow and grow. Jeff Kuhner here on the great WRKO, 721 now. Boston's Bulldozer. I want to ask all of you, has the FBI lost all credibility in your eyes? Does this report now really pave the way for Kash Patel and Trump to thoroughly clean house and reform the FBI from top to bottom? 617-266-6868. And what do you make of the report itself? Are you surprised or not surprised? Let's go to Ginger Betty. She not only makes the best cookies in the business, she was also there on January 6th as a direct witness. Ginger Betty, what are your impressions of the report? And now that we know, bombshell report, 26 undercover agents or undercover assets, informants were there, and many of them on the steps of the Capitol, some of them inside the Capitol. No one has been held accountable. What say you?
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. Good to talk to you. Yeah, I mean, I think they should all. This is just awful. You know, when, like you said, I was there at January 6th. I mean, there was such a sense that something was not right. I mean, I think they should all be held accountable. I think it's just, it's so un-American. So I hope that they all get held to account. They should all retire. They should all be in jail. Actually, it was, you know, something that was supposed to be such a nice time and everybody was having a good time. I'll tell you, the energy was just so unbelievable. My friends, Esther and I, we were sharing cookies, making friends as we always do. So one little thing, we did go to, we were just going to the ladies' room. We were at the Ellipse. And all of a sudden, I see about 40, you know, porta potties or whatever. We said, okay, we're going to go down here. And so there's a guy wrapping caution tape around all 40 of the porta potties. And I'm thinking, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, these are for tomorrow. I said, really? Oh, okay. So I could wet my pants today, but I could use those tomorrow. This is awesome. It was just like he had this smirk on his face. Like there were no, you know, they wanted this to fail. It like to be an epic failure from start to finish. When we got there, it was, you knew something was not right. You absolutely knew something was not right. So we never went to the Capitol building because I had to get back for something, but something in the air. It was just, I mean, when we were in the crowd, that crowd was huge. And we did notice right away. I hooked up with some other people from Quincy, actually, and funny that we met in that huge crowd, but there were no ambulances. There were no, like, wasn't a big police presence, and, you know, so it was a major setup to fail. And just look how things turned around. I'm so glad that Trump got in, and this is like, this is the turnaround, the clean house.
Should the J6ers be released immediately, Ginger Betty?
Oh, 1,000%. And I've gone to some of the CPAC meetings and stuff, and, you know, these guys are like, oh, thank you, you know, writing letters and doing this. They did nothing wrong. This is, I mean, you can clearly see on the TV that they were all invited in. I mean, the stories are horrific. The marriages that broke up, the mortgages that didn't get paid, like you said, the grandmothers. I mean, this is absolutely insane. These are proud Americans, and this is how we thank them. It's a friggin' outrage, and all these people, they should be out immediately. Amen. All of them.
Amen. Ginger Betty, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. I agree with her, not 100, 1,000%. Look, there's one case, there's many cases, but let me just give you one. He was a father, okay, married, I believe 4 children. Don't quote me on that. It's either 3 or 4 kids. And he went to the steps of the Capitol. Didn't go in. He just was on the steps. Close, very close. Christopher Wray's FBI wanted to nail him for January 6th. And so what they did was they tracked him and they tracked him. And then they spied on him. They literally were eavesdropping. And they heard that his 16-year-old son disagreed with his father going there and protesting the stolen election. And so they contacted the 16-year-old son and turned him into an informant. Like out of George Orwell's 1984. I'm not kidding. Turning the child, the son, against the father. And they said, wear a wire and get him to confess to you that he was there that day and that he was on the steps of the Capitol and that he, you know, wanted to see Donald Trump get elected. And so the son instigates a fight with his father, an argument, in which the father is like, yes, I was there. Yes, I was at the Capitol. Yes, I wanted to do more to help Trump, or however he phrased it. They used the son's own testimony and wire to put this man behind bars for several years. His own son. 16 years old. Not mature. Doesn't really know what he's doing. Probably influenced by school and his peers. a big flaming liberal, and he's going to put his racist father behind bars. This is what Ray's FBI did. And now we find out his people were involved? Obscene. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in the light of this bombshell, and there's just no other way to describe it, this bombshell report from the Department of Justice's Inspector General, which clearly now proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that Christopher Wray lied, Merrick Garland lied, the FBI lied. There were, at a minimum, 26 what they call confidential human sources, essentially FBI informants, FBI assets, paid rats in MAGA hats, as Jesse Waters put it. I think very well, very colorfully. In the wake now that we know that 26 FBI assets infiltrated the J6 protest, inciting people to storm the Capitol, to confront the police, that minimum four, literally went into the Capitol, breached the Capitol, and so were part of the storming of the Capitol. And no charges have ever been filed against the 26. So the FBI had a clear, direct role in what happened. And in doing this, in framing the J6ers, in framing Trump. And remember, it's the same FBI then that hunted down and persecuted over 1,500 innocent people, threw them behind bars. Many of them with 10, 15, 20-year jail sentences. Okay, it's like something out of a dystopian novel. You hear about this in Soviet Russia or in Nazi Germany, not in the United States of America. The reason why I'm setting this up like this, Kash Patel will now be the new incoming FBI director. This is the question. It's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And I'd like for as many of you in the audience, Kuhner Country, to participate in this vote. I really want to get the sense of where you stand and what you think Trump and Patel need to do. Can the FBI be rehabilitated? In other words, can it be thoroughly reformed, cleaned house? You know, Patel comes in, fires people, gets rid of the bad agents, cleans out the top leadership. In other words, can the FBI be saved? Or does it just have to be essentially burned to the ground, dismantled, and maybe create a new agency or whatever? But the question is, can the FBI, with everything that we know now, can the FBI be rehabilitated? A, yes. B, no. Honestly, my answer is no. There's a certain point where a structure is so rotten, so corroded, so diseased. You just gotta take a bulldozer, the Kuhner man bulldozer, in this case the Kash Patel bulldozer, and you just bulldoze it to the ground and build something new. But that's me. You may agree, you may disagree. That's why I want to hear from you. Can the FBI, essentially, can it be saved? Can it be reformed? Can it be rehabilitated? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. Kuhn as in national ER. Lines are jammed. David in Watertown. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. In the late 1980s, I was a clerk working for the Inspector General for HUD. And I did the clerical work on a report on Section 8 certificates. Now, this report had recommendations, but the HUD itself that we were overseeing was required to implement these recommendations. So, did this report on the FBI activities on J6 have recommendations? Because if it did, then the FBI itself was required to implement those recommendations. And so I disagree with you. I think the FBI can be rehabilitated by following those recommendations.
Okay, well, excellent question, David. I'm just going by the report. I have no other knowledge besides the report. Apparently, he recommended changes in procedures, changes in processes. I'm quoting from the report, and that a clearer line of communication needs to be made between the FBI, the police, and other agencies, and to let them know when they're using FBI informants. And that the problem, he says, was not just that they used these FBI informants, but the police didn't know, other agencies didn't know, that this was all clouded in secrecy, shrouded in secrecy, and that this was all kept very much within the agency. Furthermore, they're alleging that Christopher Wray, he's playing dumb. So Christopher Wray is claiming, and when he was interviewed by Horowitz, the IG, I had no idea. I don't know. I completely forgot. I don't know. And so they're saying that if you're going to be using these kind of undercover informants or assets, that you have to inform the FBI director. Now, I'll be honest. I think Christopher Wray lied to Horowitz. I don't believe him as far as I can throw him. But basically what they're saying is the FBI needs to be more transparent. The FBI needs to be more upfront. The FBI needs to communicate better with other agencies and other law enforcement officials. In other words, clearer guidelines, clearer procedures, clearer processes. So essentially, run a tighter ship and be more open and transparent. That was Horowitz's recommendation.
Must be implemented by the FBI. That's what happened with the report that I personally worked on as a clerk. Someone else in the office called an auditor wrote the first draft longhand with a pen on a pad of yellow paper, and then I took what he wrote and typed it into a word processor. I printed out a hard copy on paper. He read it and then made some edits and then eventually came out as a final report, and it was distributed to other agencies. But these recommendations, they had to be implemented. They were forced. The agency, in my case, HUD, was required to implement the recommendations, every single one of them.
Yeah, no, David, I think they're going to try to. I think that's going to be the game. But look, David, this is what I read last night. It's now breaking. What apparently Chris Wray has now done, or doing, before, he's still technically FBI director. So what he's doing now is he's trying to handcuff Trump and Kash Patel before they can take over the FBI. And so apparently he's leading a shadow campaign to keep smearing Kash Patel in order to prolong the confirmation process so that his number two, who will replace Christopher Wray, can run the agency for another 2 to 3 months. Why? Because what Wray is doing, and he wants his number two to continue, is to promote his people, Wray's people, and burrow them deep, these establishment FBI hacks, and burrow them deep into the agency so that they can obstruct and block Patel and Trump at every turn. So they don't want the FBI reformed. They don't want the FBI to be cleaned out. They want to leak against Patel, and they want to try to sabotage Patel from within. And that's why if I'm Trump and Patel, on day one, every Christopher Wray promotion, fired. Anybody associated with Christopher Wray, fired. And then I want Wray under oath again. 749 on the Greg WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Congressman Thomas Massie. Everybody now is weighing in on this report. And they're all coming to the same conclusion that, I am and that most of you are. So Thomas Massie, as you know, is a really brilliant constitutionalist. And I'd say more libertarian than conservative, but anyway, a real defender of civil liberties. He's been outspoken in the defense of the J6ers. And of course, he sits on these committees in which he has, been one of the people grilling both Christopher Wray and the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Well, this is what Massie wrote in the wake of the IG report by Michael Horowitz, the bombshell report that came out last night. And so I'm not going to play the cut because there's no point. I mean, we can play cut after cut. But Massie is like, quote, watch, and this is the exchange between him and Garland. I think it was last year. Attorney General Merrick Garland lied to me under oath for years about whether confidential human sources were at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Based on the DOJ Inspector General's report today, will Garland ask Biden for a preemptive pardon for his perjury? Now, just very quick. And by the way, that's another, Garland's name has been thrown around for a preemptive pardon. Like, it's all starting to make sense now. People are like, why Liz Cheney? Why Adam Schiff? Why Merrick Garland? Okay, now we get it. So, number one, am I the only one? Like, you and I, if we lie under oath to a committee, they throw our ass in jail. We're destroyed. These guys, caught, red-handed, committing perjury, lying under oath, and not once, again, and again, and again. Nothing happens. Now, and as Massey's saying, is Garland now going to get a preemptive pardon? Now, I think this is what Trump needs to do. Okay, if his people are listening, he's got to come out and warn Biden that if he issues any preemptive pardons, I know the pardon power is, exclusive to the president. I get it. And I know we give broad discretion to the president to use the pardon power. But to just preemptively pardon anything and everything someone has ever done, that's never been done before. Until Hunter Biden came along. You can't do that. A pardon is for a specific crime that you've been convicted of or charged with or whatever. You can't just come in and say, hey, everything you've done, maybe did, probably did, who knows, I pardon it all. Here it is. So, you mass murder? No problem. Mass rape? No problem. You're a terrorist and, blew up a building and killed 50 people? I pardon it all. I just pardon. You committed treason? Pardon it all. You can't do that. Trump needs to come out and say, you issue any preemptive pardons to cover your rear end and that of your corrupt, evil administration. I'm taking this right to the Supreme Court. I want the Supreme Court to weigh in on the constitutionality and legality of issuing these blanket, unconditional, preemptive pardons. Because this is outrageous. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree? Paulette in Mansfield. Thanks for holding, Paulette, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Paulette. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. So just because you just brought this up in the last few minutes regarding the FBI, whether they can be cleaned or if it should just be, dismantled and burnt to the ground. I think we just need a complete, clean slate when it comes to the FBI. That way they can investigate everyone, and figure out what happened there. But so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about January 6th because I was there, and I've told you that before. They jammed our phones. We could not make calls. We could not get on social media. It was done on purpose so that we basically were sitting ducks. We had no idea what was going on. So the communication between some of us that were there was just, it was terrible. We couldn't really talk to each other. And when we were coming back from the speech, we were walking towards the Capitol. We were just going to go up there and, have a good time, protest or whatever. And there were people walking towards us that were all dressed in black. They were obviously not MAGA, you can tell. They had, face masks on. So when you say that there was only 26 FBI people there in the crowd, there was absolutely more than that. Not only do I believe there were more FBI agents there, but I also think they were working in conjunction with Antifa and with BLM, because there were definitely some very shady characters that were in the crowd and enticing people to leave the speech and go up to the Capitol. We're going to go in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I actually thought about going up there, because it was, when I get up to the gates where the people were, pushing and whatever, the police, they weren't really trying to push back. They were letting people in. So I thought it would have been okay. But the girl that I was with was, she's like, I don't think this is a good idea. Let's not do that. And then the guy next to me, he had welts all over his leg from rubber bullets. There was tear gas. I came very close to going up there because I was just curious. So glad that I listened to her because I'd probably
thank
be
the Lord
there.
you didn't. Paulette,
Yep.
I'm not kidding. You'd be rotting in a prison right now.
Absolutely.
With a 15, 20-year sentence hanging over your head. I mean, thank the Lord. No, look, Paulette, the 26 figure of the 26, confidential, FBI confidential sources, that's from the Horowitz report. That's what he's citing. That's not my figure. My figure is your figure. I'm positive there were many. I think minimum 400 or 500 FBI assets, informants, whatever you want to call them. I agree with you. They were working with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. There's no question that they were. And look, this is to me now what is crystal clear. Pelosi knew there was going to be violence that day. They had it planned with the FBI. I believe with the CIA and the NSA. Milley, they were all on board. And they said, here's what we're going to do. He thinks he's going to have an honest, these honest speeches on the floor of the Senate, and he's going to help uncover all of the voter fraud as Hawley takes one state and Cruz takes another state, and I think Blackburn, and they had 4 of them lined up, and they were going to make their case. He goes, no. It's never going to get to the Senate. We are going to make sure that we have our people there who will storm the Capitol themselves if they need be and rile up the crowd and tell them to go into the Capitol. And we're going to have people on the inside who are going to let them in. Because the reason why I know the Horowitz report is flawed. Now, to be fair to him, he does say repeatedly many FBI agents refused to cooperate. Many in the top leadership refused to cooperate, that he met obstruction and stonewalling every step of the way. So he even admits this is not a complete report. There were a lot of people who I wanted to get information from who refused to give us this information. Okay, so, to be fair to the guy. But let me tell you what is missing. It's a glaring hole in his report. who gave the order for that giant magnetic door at the Capitol to be opened from the inside. It cannot be opened from the outside. A tank can't go through that thing. I mean, it's like 3 feet thick. It's made of like, what is it, steel or whatever. It's a magnetic, it's a massive door. It can only be opened from the inside. Somebody opened it on the inside. Who opened it on the inside? And who gave the order to open it on the inside? No one has answered that question. Because if you answer that question, you go to the heart of this conspiracy. And I mean conspiracy in the true sense of the definition, which is a group of people working together to accomplish a certain objective. Okay, that's what a conspiracy is. And usually done more in secret or in the shadows or behind the scenes. And that's what this was. And then who gave the order to the other police officers to pull back the barricades, to wave them in, to open all the side doors? Because if the giant door was not opened, and if the side doors were not opened, no way in hell could anybody have breached or gotten into the Capitol. In other words, there would have been no, and I'm using air quotes, no insurrection that day. No breaching of the Capitol. So it was a clear inside job. Now, if you want my 2 cents, my take, I think the order was given by the Department of Justice, and I think the order was given by the FBI. And I think they told those Capitol Hill police officers, some of whom, by the way, now conveniently have committed suicide, open that damn door. Open those side doors. You're going to let them in. You're going to let them in. And remember, they were convinced that January 6th was going to bury Trump. That he would never. See, now he made this miracle comeback. And so we kind of see it through a bit of a different lens. But this hung over him like a shadow for years. They thought after January 6th, at a bare minimum, Trump was politically finished. And most likely was going to go to jail over J6. That was the heart of that. The heart of their lawfare was based around J6. So they didn't just frame the J6ers. This was ultimately an attempt to frame Donald Trump. To portray him as a, quote, insurrectionist, a domestic terrorist who needs to be put behind bars and must never come as a threat to democracy, who must never be allowed to go back to the White House again. And they drove that narrative for nearly 4 years. They couldn't get him on the Russia collusion hoax, so they got him on the January 6th hoax, or they thought they did. And here we are, Paulette. Here we are. Now we know the FBI was involved. Now we know the FBI had informants. Now we know the FBI's own people breached the Capitol. Now, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm going on the warpath. And I want answers, and I want answers to everything. I want everything now to be made public, everything to be exposed. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. 8 o'clock, you know what that means. Caller of the week, Kuhner's Call Log.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Rick.
I'm going to be out there in the stratosphere here. I believe that they are most likely UFOs, and let me explain why. Some of the pictures that are shown in the videos, they are within like this sort of a globe, pulsates. It doesn't turn, red, white, and green. It just pulsates, and it looks like you can see something inside of it, but it's obscured. Now, the ones that actually have the lights, the navigation lights, those could be FBI and U.S. Air Force drones. But the interesting thing is when they get close to these other type of drones or whatever they are, they shoot away at fantastic speeds. Or, as you say, they go dark and you can't see them. I don't think it's Russia or China. They've been reporting the same thing, but nobody over here pays any attention to what France could be seeing it. We wouldn't pay attention, our media as it is. The fact that some of these things are going from 0 to hypersonic speed, if there's anybody inside of one of those, they'd be turned into a jelly. I'm not saying there's little green men inside. What I'm thinking is these are, some of them, not all of them, are from another world. They're from outside of this world, but that they are essentially probes.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. By the way, I thought yesterday's show was one of the best shows we've had in a long time. I mean, every show is a very high quality show, don't get me wrong. But I thought the different angles, the different perspectives, just the knowledge of the callers, incredible. As always, incredible. Okay, 617-266-6868. This is from my sister Jennifer, Jen as I call her. She is no big fan of the FBI. Here's what she texted me on my private cell phone. Jeff, the Horowitz report doesn't go far enough. You are right. Who ordered the FBI to do this? The report doesn't go to the root of it all. And of course, Biden now will issue a preemptive pardon for Merrick Garland and maybe probably Christopher Wray. That's what the plan was all along. Like you, Jeff, I am for abolishing the FBI, period, full stop. We can expand the CIA if we need to, create departments within, maybe create a whole brand new agency. People would be appalled to hear how much the FBI costs us and for what, with 3 question marks. 617-266-6868. Okay, it's member of Congress now after member of Congress. Now coming out and saying Christopher Wray lied under oath, Merrick Garland lied under oath, top people within the DOJ and the FBI lied under oath. They said there were never FBI confidential human sources. Now we know, according to this bombshell report, at least 26 of them were planted and infiltrated the J6 protest. 4 of them literally breached the Capitol. No charges were filed against any of them. 617-266-6868. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Bill, like Lazarus rising from the dead.
That's not
Where
true.
have you been
Jeff.
the last 6 weeks, Bill?
I've been just letting you celebrate.
You guaranteed that Kamala Harris was going to win. You said Trump was going to lose, that I didn't know what I was talking about, that we were all deluded here in MAGA world, and that January 6th, according to you, J6 was the issue that was going to catapult Kamala and the Democrats into the White House. And now, 6 weeks later, Bill, are you here to apologize? Are you here to say, mea culpa, I was wrong?
Jeff, I tell you all the time, Jeff, I look at it like a bookie, and I'm never going to apologize for losing a 45-55 pick. I picked and she ended up losing. I'm not going to be ashamed about it. So anyways, tell me about... Hold on,
you're not going to be ashamed? Whoa, Bill, relax. You're not ashamed that you guaranteed a Kamala victory?
No, I predicted
and that
it.
you said that January 6th was such a dark day that this was going to destroy Donald Trump?
I still
and that
think
I
so.
didn't understand, according to you, Kuhner, I didn't, my listeners, MAGA supporters, just how much ordinary Americans cared about January 6th. And that this was such a crime against our democracy. And that this was going to guarantee Trump's defeat. No, hold on. That's what you said. So what happened? No, this wasn't a horse race. This wasn't. You didn't call and say, Jeff, 55-45, I'm going with 45. You guaranteed a Trump defeat on the grounds that January 6th was so unforgivable and unpardonable that Trump was destined to lose. Are you here now to apologize, Bill?
Tell me what in this new report is going to justify him doing absolutely nothing. Tell me what in this new report is going to justify.
So you won't answer my question. So hold on.
Let's talk about January 6th, Jeff.
Well, no, but hold on. Relax. We'll talk about January 6th. I don't look, this IG report has destroyed your entire narrative. If I were you, the last thing I'd want to do is talk about this report. Okay? But we'll talk about it. But let's go back again to what you were saying the weeks before the election. I'm sorry, you're a liberal moonbat, and now it's time for you liberal moonbats to face reality. What you said to us was that Trump was going to lose. Guaranteed. I was living in a fantasy world. We were all living in a fantasy world. And that January 6th was the paramount issue in the country that was going to sink Trump. Now, why can't you just say you were wrong? Because you have no credibility left, Bill. If you were so wrong on this, why should I listen to anything else you have to say?
Oh, because I thought it was a call-in show. I thought you wanted callers. I'm sorry. I apologize. So tell me
I'm
what
just asking. But I mean, what's the value of your call? What's the value of your call?
Let's talk about January 6th. Tell me what's going to justify him doing absolutely nothing while the attack is going on. Tell me what's going to justify him not calling
you
anybody,
keep repeating the same lie
in any way.
I know, Bill, I know, but you keep repeating the same. You keep repeating the same lie, and I keep giving you the same answer. He asked for 10,000 troops 3 days before. Denied. As it happened, he told everybody, stop and go home. What you can't answer now is why did the FBI create January 6th? 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, as many of you over the last 5-6 minutes are commenting on the text line. Notice, Jeff, moonbats like Bill, hardcore progressives, liberals like Bill, can never, never all in caps, admit when they're wrong. And, I hear you. I mean, guaranteeing a Kamala victory, saying that the reason why Trump is going to lose, it's in the bag because of January 6th. That what Trump did was so unforgivable, so unpardonable, so criminal, so worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than anything since the Civil War. And that this ensures his defeat. And then all of a sudden, it was a 45-55 horse race. I just, picked the one with the odds a little bit worse than the other one. That's all I did. It's pathetic. Honestly, it's pathetic. And that's the mind of a fanatic. That's the mind of a zealot. And now you've got this bombshell report that shows and proves conclusively, not just that the FBI lied and the DOJ lied and that Wray and Garland lied under oath, which are crimes, but that the FBI infiltrated and instigated the January 6 protests and that they breached the Capitol. So our own federal government was deeply involved in what happened on January 6th. Trump was set up and framed. He said repeatedly, peacefully and patriotically protest. I don't want any violence because the one thing I don't want is something what happened on January 6th. Because then my people can't make their case. Now notice, what they never ask is why did Pelosi turn down the 10,000 National Guard troops? Why did Pelosi do nothing? And remember, she's in charge of Capitol Hill security as Speaker of the House, not Trump. Not Trump has no jurisdiction over Capitol Hill security. None. That's why he had to request 10,000 National Guard troops. And he asked the mayor of D.C., and he asked Pelosi. What did Pelosi do during the 2.5 hours that the J6 riot, if you want to call it, unfolded? Nothing. What did Mayor Bowser do? Nothing. What did Trump do? He kept urging his people, stop, go home, end this. And he kept posting it on social media. But what did Twitter do? They took it down. Remember, this was pre-Elon Musk. This was Jack Dorsey. So this idea that somehow Trump bears responsibility. Bullcrap. Bullcrap. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Like we said all along. Pelosi bears responsibility. Chris Wray bears responsibility. And those that instigated J6, the deep state, but are the ones who deserve responsibility and should be held accountable. Trump was framed, and now this J6 report blows the entire narrative constructed by the media and the Democrats and that phony baloney BS J6 committee sky high. And I'm sorry, but now we have to ask ourselves a very serious question. And this is the question now Trump's going to have to answer when he comes into power on January 20th, and Kash Patel, God willing, if he's confirmed as FBI director, and Pam Bondi as the new attorney general. We had a January 6th committee that deliberately suppressed, covered up, and now we know destroyed evidence that exonerated Donald Trump, that exonerated most of the J6ers, and that clearly exposed and revealed the pernicious role that our own government, our own FBI, our own Merrick Garland, our own DOJ had in inciting, instigating, and fomenting that riot and the breach of the Capitol. So is this how it works now? You put together an illegitimate committee when it was constitutionally illegitimate, but let that go. And then you have all these Hollywood directors, you remember? With the cameras everywhere. And they're crying, Adam Kinzinger, I can't believe my country. Oh, January 6th. Where's the Pearl Harbor? Making a fool of himself. And there's Liz Cheney, all self-righteous, the warmonger, the neocon, out to destroy Trump on behalf of the Cheney family, crime family, and the Bush crime family, the oligarchs. And she's going on about how this is a crime against democracy. We will never and can never stand. And it turns out she lied. And then she destroyed all of the exculpatory evidence? Now she's begging for a pardon. No pardon. Every single one of them. Send them behind bars. The wrong people are in jail. The wrong people are in jail. That's what I was trying to say before Mike cut me off as we hit the last break. You know, Mike, would it kill you? Let me finish a syllable, for God's sake. But anyway, the wrong people, I'm telling you, the wrong people are in jail. The J6ers are innocent. The conviction should be overturned on the spot. They should be pardoned, and they should be allowed to go home to their families. And if you remember, a good friend of mine just texted me this, a couple of minutes ago. Jeff, nothing sent shivers down their spine more than when Pam Bondi, the incoming Attorney General, said, we must and we will investigate the investigators. Because that's exactly now what needs to happen. Agree, disagree, 832 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Victor in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Good morning, America's talk show host. Have you gone national officially?
We're trying, Victor. We're working hard, my friend. Thank you very much for those very kind words. Victor, are you shocked by this bombshell report? And what do you think needs to happen now to the FBI?
If I had my way, I'd take these agents and scatter them around the country looking for illegal aliens. And it's fun locally to hear the fight about the J. Edgar Hoover building. Maryland wants it built, of course, in Maryland, and Virginia says, oh, we're better than Maryland. Build it in Virginia. So the fight continues locally here, and it's fun to laugh. And I got a neighbor like Bill of Sudbury. You can't tell her anything, so I just let her live in her own little world and stew in her own juices.
You know, Victor, just as a side point, you know, it's like listening to a cult leader. No, really. This day, the end of the world. And it doesn't happen. And then the following week, he says, okay, this day is going to be really, really, really the end of the world. And it doesn't happen. And then again, you know, a week later, no, this day, I'm telling you, really, 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 it's going to be the end of the world. And it doesn't happen. Now, there's a certain point, if you're sane, you say, I was wrong. And maybe I need to reevaluate and reassess my view of reality. Because clearly, if I'm saying January 6th is the worst day in America since the Civil War, because I bought all the propaganda from the media and the Democrats, and that the American people in righteous vengeance and anger are going to slap down the evil Donald Trump, and, you know, Kamala's going to win this election, and suddenly I turn out to be 1,000% wrong. You know, you'd think he would do some kind of reassessment, reevaluation. Nah, and by the way, it's been like this for 10 years. Wrong, 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 wrong. And it doesn't matter. And to be brutally honest with you, Victor, there's only two kinds of people I've met in my life, honestly, that are exactly like that mindset, that fanatical, zealous mind of an ideologue. Communists, hardcore Marxists, and Islamists, and liberals. And that, to me, I look at the liberal mind, and it's no different than that of a communist or that of an Islamofascist. Well, what say you, Victor? Final word to you, my friend.
The one thing about liberals, it's always somebody else's fault, never their fault whatsoever. I was married to a liberal, and she divorced me because I wouldn't stop listening to Rush Limbaugh. That was the thing that really ticked her off big time. Also, about the so-called climate change, I call them watermelons, green on the outside and red on the inside. They've been saying for years that we're going to be roasted to death because it's going to be so warm and everything. And let's see, how many years did they say? Yeah, in 12 years, I think we're down to 1 year now. So I don't even pay attention to these people.
I agree. No, Victor, look, and you mentioned climate change. I don't want to get too much off topic, but I can't tell you now, if I had money for every time they kept going on about, no, the planet's really over now. Okay, no, really, there's no, 2002, the year 2000, the year 2004, the year 2012, the year 2017. You got Al Gore, right? You've got him with his, crazy doomsday predictions and this model and that model. And they keep making the prediction. No, this is really the point of no return. And by the way, keep sending money. And it never happens. They just keep moving the goalpost and moving the goalpost and moving the goalpost. And there's got to be a certain point where you say, why would you believe these snake oil salesmen? But not to the Bills in Sudbury. That just goes above their head. Victor, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. But let that go, as I like to say. Look, these are the same moonbats. Just stand back objectively. Okay, this is the same media that told us the FBI, they weren't involved. They were, of course, why? No, FBI had nothing to do with January 6th. There were no informants. There were no assets. Nothing. This was all MAGA. And now it turns out to be another lie. Is CNN doing a mea culpa? ABC News? CBS News? MSLF-BC? NBC News? PBS? NPR? New York Times? Boston Globe? Washington Post? No. Because that's the point. They're not in the business of journalism or truth. They're in the business of propaganda. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Well, it was worse than January 6th. Was worse than Pearl Harbor, because on Pearl Harbor we were attacked by a foreign government, and on January 6th we were attacked by our own government. And they were a government of criminals and thugs, and an American hero was murdered in cold blood. And probably the gang of 26 FBI people were probably the same ones who kept going to people's homes and raided Mar-a-Lago and raided the home of an American military hero whose wife was pregnant when they came with a SWAT team, and the next day she lost the baby. Another hero committed suicide because he was charged with crimes on January 6th. And if you play my first call about January 6th, everything that you said is what I said on that day. These people were set up. They didn't want the National Guard because they would have been arresting their own people, because it was their own people who were committing all the atrocities and causing all the damage. And Nancy Pelosi was busy with her daughter filming a documentary and making sure her makeup was on straight. And AOC, who claimed she was in such danger, wasn't even in the Congress. And the Capitol Police are shown inviting everybody in. Who cares if they destroyed all the? They destroyed their own evidence. Their own evidence is worthless anyway. You have the videotapes, and nothing better than pictures and videotape. That's the best evidence that you can get. And that criminal who murdered that girl in cold blood and took his time and aimed to shoot her as the security people walked away and let it happen, and no one's been held accountable for it. I mean, these people are a disgrace. Nothing's ever going to happen to them, Jeff, but you know what? The story should be exposed. And the only way it's going to get exposed is if, they turn around and we need to get control of our media, because the media is there to point out the truth, and these people can only get away with it because they have the mouthbox. And you can't believe people who you think, and you know people like this. They're intelligent, they have good jobs, and yet they believe all this crap. And there's no point in even talking to them. And yet they're out there. You can't even talk to them. People like Bill in Sudbury, first of all, how does he live in Sudbury? He's on welfare. He gets nothing but aid from the government.
Well, he could still be living with his parents, Arthur.
He's everything. He's everything that America is not.
I'm with you, Arthur. As always, dynamite call, my friend. I think he's like a 60-year-old man, but I think his parents are in their 90s, so he's still living in the basement of his 90, 95-year-old parents. Yeah. Don't cut me off now, Mike. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quickly. This is an absolutely brilliant text regarding the bombshell report yesterday released by Attorney General Michael Horowitz, the Department of Justice's Inspector General. 917. Jeff, and by the way, you can text us 70470. Couple lines are open if you want to call. 617-266-6868. Jeff, you are correct at the gross underestimate of the number of FBI assets involved on January 6th. Remember, in an interview by Tucker Carlson with Congressman Clay Higgins, Higgins explained that the figure is at least 200, and that these assets infiltrated and instigated many citizen groups and online communities to be violent, much like the entrapment FBI scheme in the setup for the Gretchen Whitmer phony kidnapping operation. The point I really want to make, Jeff, is how the deep state and media propaganda war is so profound and so effective that a third of the American population has been trained to a level of hatred for Donald Trump and MAGA supporters that any tactic, including assassination, is acceptable. I have family members in this sector of Americans, and for them, the reaction to the Inspector General's report yesterday is, why weren't there more FBI assets, more arrests, more prison time for these people and their heroes, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray? Lying is a form of a higher truth. And there's an allusion to James Comey's propaganda book, A Higher Loyalty. Brilliant. I'm telling you, absolutely brilliant. By the way, that's Bill in Sudbury in a nutshell. And so many moonbats. That's why it's just the report, Trump. Why didn't Trump stop it more? Why didn't he do more? Trump. They're conditioned to just hate and hate and hate and hate. And lying, again, if it's in the service of destroying or defaming or sabotaging Trump, then it's fine. And again, like typical totalitarian thugs. And that's what liberals have now become. They are totalitarian thugs. They don't care that the FBI infiltrated the J6 protests. Why weren't there more informants? And this texter is completely right. We don't want 1,500 in jail. We want 15,000 in jail. We don't want the January 6ers in there for 10, 15, 20 years. We want them in there for life. And Merrick Garland can lie under oath, and Christopher Wray can lie under oath, and Joe Biden can lie to the American people over and over and over again, because it's all fine, because you're serving a higher truth. What's that higher truth? Destroy Trump. 617-266-6868 is the number. That's the totalitarian mind. The ends justify the means. Mark in Chelmsford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. This is regarding the J6 stuff and all that.
Yes.
I was at the part of the speeches. I didn't go to the other one because I was there all day. There was no room to sit anywhere. And as we were coming in, we saw all these people who were not associated with the event, but they were coming. They were all, we considered them Antifa / BML people. And basically, as we were walking, we even took pictures of them. And as we were walking to the place, the Washington Monument area, we even saw people hanging on the edge, and we even asked them, "What are you guys doing here? Why are you even here?" And they didn't have any real answer. They're just hanging out, like us, like kids on the street corner. They're all young, clean-cut kind of kids, wearing straight, just basically being that generation of kids. And you could tell they weren't associated with anything. But more importantly, all of us knew that these people have been lying all along. And as far as I'm concerned, when you said to disband FBI and all that, I believe FBI and all that, I believe in all that, but that still doesn't put these people, there's no ramifications for them. All they do is lose a job, and they'll find another one somewhere else. I think the way I look at this, every individual involved in this, we're not doing this for the government, but for a personal agenda. And as far as I'm concerned, anyone that has a personal agenda should be sued for damages and go after their personal wealth, because all of them got money somewhere from this. And, and that's how we take care of the J6ers, get them all paid back by all these people who use the government as a personal agenda item. And that's my 2 cents worth in this.
Well, look, Mark, I agree with you. I think there should be massive lawsuits. I think there should be massive financial compensation. I think there should be, as I said, pardons, not just to get them out of jail. That goes without saying. But because this is going to haunt them now for the rest of their lives. And I think people really just don't understand. You apply for a driver's license or renew a driver's license, you have to mark down now, not just that you're a criminal, but the government considers you a domestic terrorist. You can't get on a plane. You can't travel. You can't get a job. You can't apply for a mortgage. This is their lives have been utterly and completely destroyed. That's why they need a pardon, and frankly, that's why they deserve financial compensation. I would go even one step further, and you may disagree with me, Mark, but I'm just speaking from the heart. I think these FBI informants need to be hauled in. I think they need to be arrested. What they did was illegal. Just because the FBI says you do something doesn't mean it's legal. This was blatantly illegal. And they were there to frame innocent protesters. Remember, in the United States of America, I know this is going to shock many liberals, but there's something called the First Amendment. And everybody has the constitutional God-given right to freedom of expression, to freedom of assembly, and to legitimately protest our grievances to the government. You have a right to protest, even in front of Capitol Hill. I'm sorry that we've been doing this for hundreds of years. So, and when Trump is going to be look, they're going to riot, I'm telling you, on January 20th. What peaceful protest? They're going to run wild. I remember in 2017 when he was inaugurated, what they did in downtown Washington, D.C. I mean, they destroyed storefronts, they overturned cars, they assaulted police officers. They tried to ruin his inauguration. Nothing happened to these people. Madonna gave a speech. I fantasize about blowing up the White House. A clear threat. Nothing happened to her. No FBI agent nor Secret Service agent knocked on her door and said, by the way, publicly threatening to kill the president is a crime. Nothing. So we've got to say to the FBI, the dirty agents that were involved, you're not just losing your job and you're not just losing your pension. You're going to jail. You lie under oath. I've never lied under oath. I don't lie under oath. I don't. I mean, I don't lie in general, but I don't lie under oath. To me, I'm like, well, that's a crime. Like, I keep saying this to myself over and over. Like, am I the last schmuck that actually believes in the law? Like, if something is illegal, I don't do it. I just don't. I'm not trying to be self-righteous. I'm just telling you, I don't do it. So, Christopher Wray can commit perjury and lie under oath again and again and again to cover up a larger crime, which is that the FBI engaged in framing the President of the United States and inciting a riot that led to the breach of the Capitol. He's got to go to jail. You don't just, and Joe Biden now with these preemptive pardons, like these get out of jail free cards for anything you've ever done in your life. What the hell is this? So, to me, I'm sorry. Merrick Garland needs to pay. Christopher Wray needs to pay. They all need to pay. And as I said half an hour ago, and I want to repeat it, I'm telling you, the wrong people are in jail. And this is the ultimate test. And again, by the way, notice, they never answer, like the Bills in Sudbury. Well, why did the big giant magnetic door, why was it opened? Had it not been opened, nobody could have gone, literally, nobody could have gone in. Don't you want to know who opened it? Nah, Trump. Well, don't you want to know who gave the order? Trump. Well, why were the police waving them in? Trump. But don't you want to know? Who gave the order to invite the crowd, literally invite and allow the crowd to get into the Capitol? If you're serious, if you really believe worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than World War II, worse than World War I. I mean, these people are insane. Just to even say this. Greatest threat to democracy. Okay, well then don't you want to know who let him in? No. Trump. Now, Pelosi needs to pay. Like, enough is enough, man. I got to say this. I'm very down on Eastern European government, okay? Because I have ancestors from there, and I know that part of the world, and it's corrupt, it's venal, it's sleazy. But I got to tell you, man, even in freaking Croatia, where my parents were from, okay? Prime ministers go to jail if they're caught, taking bribes. If they're caught openly breaking the law, they go to jail. Even in Ukraine, they go to jail. Like, yes, there's a ton of corruption, but holy mackerel, there's a limit to everything. There's no limit here. There's no limit. Now, who's going to give back? How many years now? These J6ers have been rotting in these gulags? Who's going to give them their years back? 95% of those that were sent away were people who either were on the steps of the Capitol, they didn't even go in, or they took a tour a 5-10 minute tour, invited in, walked around, took pictures, some with Capitol police officers with the thumbs up in the picture. And that gives you a 12-year jail sentence. 15 years, 20 years. You're crazy. I'm telling you, to all these liberals, you are effing freaking crazy. You're nuts. And that's because they hate us so much. And the reason why they hate us so much is because of the nonstop propaganda and indoctrination. I go back to that text. That's, to me, is what's sickening about all of this. And then you find out, and I'm telling you, Congressman Higgins said it was 260. He says, I think it was between 200 to 250, 260. I'm telling you it's at least 500, okay? But they got 26. Okay, we know there was minimum 26. Our own government was involved, and they lied to us, and they incited, and they instigated, and some of them literally breached the Capitol. So why aren't they in jail? Why aren't they in jail? So what is this now? You're an FBI agent? You can do whatever you want? Like what? So you're above the law too now? Like, seriously, this is like Putin's FSB. This is like the secret service, the intelligence services in China. It's like the KGB, the old KGB. KGB. We do what we need to do. So is this what this is now? They're like 000 instead of 007, license to kill? They can do whatever they want? And to put the cherry on the sundae, and I promise I'm going to get back to you, Mark. This is the one that has been haunting me now for nearly 4 years. And I know there are others, Roseanne Boylan, and there are others who died on that fateful day. And I want justice for all of them. There were 4 people killed. The only 4 killed on that day were not police officers. They were Trump supporters and MAGA protesters. But the one, it was the way she was killed. It's because I read her biography. I saw the pain. I've seen her poor mother begging for justice, her family begging for justice. They've never gone beyond January 6, 2021. Their lives have stood still. And that's Ashli Babbitt. That scumbag, Michael Byrd, stood there. And by the way, it's all coming out now. The complaints against him, what a bad cop he was, how he mishandled his gun repeatedly, that he should have been fired. He never should have been kept on as a police officer. I could go on and on. They covered up his background. Okay? They covered all that up. You stand there, an unarmed veteran, a 14-year Air Force veteran, unarmed, forgive me, a woman, what, 5'5", 5'6", maybe 110, 120 pounds, Mr. Tough Guy? And you shoot her in the throat, point blank? And they give him a medal? And not only give him a medal, they gave him a promotion. They gave him a promotion. No. No. The answer to you is no. That's the answer. I want his job. I want his pension. And I want his ass in jail. Where's Black Lives Matter when you need them? Seriously. You want to talk about police abuse, police misconduct. This is it. Covered up and aided and abetted by Nancy Pelosi and Alejandro Mayorkas and Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland. She's dead. We're not. What did she do? She was a patriot. She went to protest a stolen election. Now, she was invited in by the police. She went in. Should she have gone in? No. But she got swept up in the crowd. Okay. That you get a slap on the wrist. That's called trespassing. That's probation. That's it. By the way, Ray Epps, who was yelling and screaming, stormed the building, stormed the Capitol, take the Capitol. You know what they gave him? 1 year probation. He hasn't spent and will not spend a second in prison. I think they gave him, don't quote me on this, 100 hours of community service. They gave him like some community, basically 5-6 days community service. Okay? Ballpark. They're protecting their own. She didn't get community service. She didn't get a slap on the wrist. She didn't get probation. She got a bullet in the throat. Now, I'm sorry. And I've said this to Trump, and I'm going to say it again. I don't just want a pardon for all the J6ers. I want justice for Ashli Babbitt. And I'm going to tell you what I said to Trump. This is not about you being president. This is not even about what's right for the Ashli Babbitt family, believe it or not. And it's not even what's right about for America. This is about you. This is about your personal honor. She went there to protect and defend, yes, our democracy, the election, no question. But you. The election was stolen from you. She was there for you. She took a bullet for you. She's dead for defending you. I know you got a lot on your plate. We're talking World War III in Ukraine. We're talking about a massive border invasion. I understand that. I understand. This woman deserves justice. Her family deserves justice. And Michael Byrd needs to be held accountable. Period. Full stop. Final word to you, Mark.
Again, everyone involved should be individual damages, not against the country. No lawsuit should go against the country because that's just our tax money. It needs to go after these people who use the government for their own agenda. And when you prove that, which is easy to prove for all these people, then you can sue them as individuals, and that's when people start seeing the real ramifications of doing wrong.
I so agree. Hit him in the pocketbook. I so agree. Mark, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Look, let me throw this log on the fire, as I like to say. Do you think there will be justice for Ashli Babbitt? A, do you think the J6ers are going to be pardoned? Personally, I think they will be. I think Trump is definitely following through on that promise. Do you think they're going to get financial compensation? And will there be justice for Ashli Babbitt? Will Michael Byrd be held accountable and go to trial for her murder? 919 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is a text I got. It's from 617. And embedded in the text is a picture of January 6th. And I just want to paint a portrait for all of you. It is a sea of people. This is at the Ellipse. 1 million people, easy. I mean, you can just see it was a massive crowd, flags everywhere, American flags, Trump flags. And the texter writes to me, Jeff, if we actually wanted to take over the Capitol on January 6th, nothing would have stopped us. Look at the size of the crowd. So the media and the liberals can stop with their, I have to clean this up, can stop with their Bravo Sierra, can stop with their their BS, can stop with their bullcrap. He then, or she goes on, 917 goes on to say, now we know 26 FBI agents at a minimum were embedded in the crowd. It wasn't a damn insurrection. Bingo. Bingo. That's, to me, the ultimate consequence of this report. It destroys the narrative of an insurrection now permanently. It's over. 617-266-6868. Okay, here is from Marianne. And remember, Michael Byrd, the Capitol Hill police officer, a black man, who shot Ashli Babbitt, was a staunch supporter and advocate of Black Lives Matter. It was all over his social media. He was a huge fan of the riots of 2020, huge fan of BLM and their agenda. So this is what Marianne writes. Jeff, am I going to be the only one to say it? The black officer, Michael Byrd, that killed Ashli Babbitt was, in my opinion, probably absolutely okay with doing it because she was white. BLM, I'm betting. And I'm 67 years old, and I still have to work because I have to. And I will bet 2 weeks' pay that I am right. And I guess I'm the only one that's going to say the obvious. Well, that's why I want a trial. I want his BLM affiliations and his blatant anti-white racism and bigotry to be exposed, and his anti-Trump hatred to be exposed to the entire public. And then we're going to find out the real motive for why he gunned down Ashli Babbitt. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Linda in Medford. Thanks for holding, Linda, and welcome.
George. George is the first name of the guy that opened the doors. There was a video a few months back, and it shows this probably young man in his 30s, white brunette, in a jacket and slacks, appropriately dressed for work. He's walking to the doors. He looks out. He turns his head up and to the left, and as if he's signaling to somebody behind him. And then the doors were open. I wish I could remember the last name because it was sort of familiar. I remember thinking to myself, has he been on TV or something like that, or at a hearing? But the first name I remember very distinctly was George. The other thing I want to say is when I was a student years ago, I worked at a place called Blackfriars. The old timers in the Boston area will remember it. The owner of the establishment was involved with the mob, and he was running bookmaking. The FBI agents used to be in there every day having some drinks and something to eat. And I used to think, I wonder why the FBI agents come up here from North Station, because Blackfriars was on Summer Street, and or in the evening after their shift to have a few drinks. It ultimately ended up that the owner of that establishment, along with a couple of other people that happened to be there at that time, were all killed. And it was called the Blackfriars Massacre. And that goes back to the 70s.
Well, I mean, look, Linda, I'm very happy that you called, because people forget how dirty the FBI has been for a long time. And, you know, they had connections to Whitey Bulger. They were, in fact, protecting Whitey, as Whitey just gave them information about the Italian mob. So they made a few arrests, but they were in bed with Whitey. They were doing business with Whitey. They were taking money from Whitey. And you're right. Many of them in Boston were involved with the Irish mob and other mobs, other gangs, or other mafias, mafia families. And they were on the take. So this is what I mean. The FBI has been dirty now for a long time. Now this cancer is just growing and growing to the point that it's completely infected the top leadership, the entire upper echelon, and I think now, frankly, most of the entire FBI. And to me, Linda, when you're dealing with a cancer patient, you got to give intensive chemotherapy. You can't just nibble around the edges. And that's why, to me, dismantle the FBI. Just rip it out, root and branch, and start fresh. But that's me. Linda, thank you for that call. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I promise I'm going to get to all your phone calls. But first, joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the CEO, president, co-founder of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Before considering retirement, it's important to have an initial conversation with those closest to you, talking to your spouse, employer, and adult children about your retirement plans could clarify expectations and address practical matters. Then you might want to meet with a financial professional. The advisors at Kelly Financial will listen to your concerns, review your financial situation, and highlight potential challenges. We also have a free investor guide that might help. It's called You've Reached the Retirement Summit. Now what? It contains insights on longevity, cost of living, and income planning to help you decide if now is your time to retire. For the guide or for a complimentary consultation with a Kelly advisor, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for our radio rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. Kelly, thank you so much. 617-266-6868. Many of you are texting the Kuhner Man. Jeff, how do I get in contact with Kelly? You can call 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or if you want to contact her directly, her email, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's Kelly, Kelly, Kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Fred in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Fred, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Fred.
I just want to already.
Fred, can you do me a favor? We can barely hear you. Can you get off speaker, por favor?
The connection, Chris Christie, his connection to me.
Fred, hang on. We're going to try to reconnect with you. I need you to get off speaker, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, Fred? Jake in Gloucester. Thanks for holding, Jake. And as always, welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Jake.
Jeff, it takes a lot over the years to get me upset anymore because I've been so upset for the past 9 years. It make your head spin. But this morning, you have riled me up. You riled me up to do things, to call people, to text message people, and some of them are text messaging you. Jeff, don't call these people crazy, the Democrats, the moonbats, the socialists, the evil. They're pure evil. Christopher Wray, evil. Joe Biden, evil. Merrick Garland, evil. They're all evil. James Comey evil. And don't forget, Jeff, back in 2016, we had the proof already. What did the FBI agent Strzok and his lover say over the phone? We have it recorded. We have an insurance policy against Trump ever becoming president. Right from day one, they exposed themselves as purely corrupt and evil. Right from day one. And no one ever talks about that conversation anymore. Trump used to joke about it, but it was nothing to joke about. The insurance policy started with the Russian hoax, and it evolved into the Russian investigation by corrupt Mueller, who was praised as one of the most men of integrity. He didn't even know what day it was. He was so feeble. And then we have the 2 phony impeachments. Then we have everything you talked about for the past 9 years. I hope, and you've said it 10 times this morning, that this guy Byrd is prosecuted by Pam Bondi right away for murder, because there is no statute of limitations on murder. He's got to be prosecuted the day Trump takes the inauguration. And the day he takes the inauguration, he's got to people have languished for 4 years, innocent people. What kind of human being, what kind of people with a soul, which they don't have, allows innocent people with families that did nothing but just mildly protest and do nothing evil, nothing violent, the language in jail for 4 years, some of them getting 10 and 20 years for doing nothing? There were so few people that were violent on that day. So few people. They want you to make you think that, there was so much violence. The violence was caused by the FBI and by the Antifa and by the insurrectionists on their side. Every FBI agent should be investigated in the FBI. Because you just said it 10 minutes ago, Jeff. We thought that there were only a few evil and corrupt FBI agents. Let me tell you something. There's only 6, 7, or 8 people that came out and voiced their honest opinions. The vast majority, almost every single FBI agent, has kept quiet for the past 9 years. They haven't spoken out. They haven't said anything about that corrupt organization. Totally corrupt. And you're right. They got to do something. I don't have full confidence, Jeff. I don't know how you feel. I don't have full confidence in Pam Bondi. I like her. She's honest. I don't know if she's tough enough. I know Kash Patel is. We know Trump is. But I'm not sure about Pam Bondi. It's too bad that Giuliani is going through what he's going through, because even at 80 years old, he would put these son of a bitches in jail. But it's too bad he's going through that hell that this evil administration has put him through.
Well, Jake, look, you made a lot of very, very good points. Frankly, that's why I wanted Gates. That's why I wanted Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. I thought he was the perfect pick. You know, and nothing against Pam Bondi. I know she's got a great record in Florida. People who work with her say she's tough, she's determined, she's smart, intelligent. She's prosecuted a lot of cases very successfully. So, you know, I have nothing against Pam Bondi, believe me. But that's why I wanted Matt Gaetz. Because I know Gaetz is a killer. I mean, a political, legal killer. The guy's going to go for the throat. Now, I just want to go to something that you said, which is so true. You know, again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just being brutally honest with you, like I'm in the confessional, okay? Brutally honest. If Rocky misses a meal, my beautiful Rocky, my dog, my cockapoo, it bothers me. You know, sometimes you run out of dog food. It just happens. And so Grace will say, yeah, I'm going to go get it or whatever. And so it's like 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning. And I start, you know, I'm like, come on, I feel bad I start giving him cheese. I start giving him apple slices. I'm like, the poor dog has been hungry for a couple of hours. It breaks my heart. I'm talking about a dog. I love my dog. Don't get me wrong. But to frame innocent human beings and citizens, fellow Americans on top of it, and to send them to prison, many of them in solitary confinement, where, forgive me, they got to urinate and defecate in the corner of a cell, some of them beaten by guards, in conditions that you think this is, what is this, Russia? What is this, Belarus? and these deplorable, god-awful conditions, and you know that they're innocent? And you know that you framed them? And you know that you guys are guilty as sin? Because you really orchestrated and instigated January 6th? This was all you and your people? I'm not kidding. Really, I swear to you, my heart starts to break if my dog hasn't eaten for 2 hours. I'm like, oh, poor guy. You know what I mean? Like, geez, poor guy. He's hungry. This audience, I'm telling you, most Americans care more about their pets and animals than the FBI does about their fellow citizens. Last word to you, Jake. Am I wrong? Wrong.
Jeff, I hope. No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely correct. I hope that these people languishing in jail for 4 years, right away, the Justice Department of Trump's administration gives them a $10 to $20 million settlement, every single one of them, because they deserve it. And then he starts putting the other people in jail. Because if that's not done, I'll tell you right now, Jeff, and I'm sure you agree, if Trump doesn't put his foot down on the biggest scandal in the history of this country, I will not support him anymore. He's got to expose this, and he's got to have a right-wing man expose it for him. He can go about doing his administration, but he's got to expose this the first month in office and get it out of the way, because if he doesn't, I will be very upset, Jeff.
Kash Patel. Now you know why they all fear Kash Patel. Jake, as always, thank you very much for that call. Mike, how much time left? Okay, I don't want to rush it. We're going to go back. Fred in Saugus. Hang in there, Fred. We're going to come take your call. All of you, hang on. I'll try to get to as many calls as I can. 617-266-6868. Do you think Ashli Babbitt will get justice? Will her murderer, Michael Byrd, her alleged murderer, will they go after him? Will he be charged and indicted? And will he be prosecuted? Cash, if you're listening, do us all a favor and go after Byrd and go after him hard. 9:48 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Justine in Boston. Thanks for holding, Justine, and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. First time caller. My buddy called me and told me that you were talking about January 6th and Ashli Babbitt. And
yes.
I was very close with Ashli. She's married to my cousin.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So Ashli Babbitt was married to your cousin?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I was very close with Ashli. I used to call Ashli my cousin-in-law. Her and I were extremely tight, and I'm just happy to hear somebody, speaking positive about what's going on, and hopefully there'll be justice in the end.
I'm just curious, Justine, are you disappointed the way they've been coddling Michael Byrd, promoting Michael Byrd? As you know, he's gotten a pay raise. He's gotten better benefits. He's been given a promotion. Do you feel that the government is engaging in a systematic cover-up of the murder of your cousin?
I'm more like disgusted. Absolutely disgusted. Because Ashli, what the media has done to her and her name and decimated her 14 years of service to our country, it's absolutely disgusting. I know that girl. That girl knew the Constitution. She was as patriotic as Betsy Ross sewing the American flag.
Justine, I mean, I'm a big supporter of Ashli, and I want justice for Ashli. But just to be, play devil's advocate for a second, what do you say to the argument? Because this is what the media, the Democrats, this is what liberals say about your cousin, that she posed a threat that day, that she breached the Capitol, that she was an insurrectionist, a terrorist, according to Joe Biden, and that she posed an imminent threat to Michael Byrd. the Capitol Hill police officer, and he had no choice but to shoot her in cold blood in self-defense. What say you?
I'll tell you what, the media is only showing you the videos that they want you to see so they can continue with their narrative. There's a ton of videos out there, and the media is only going to show you the videos that suit their narrative. And there's plenty of videos of Ashli standing to the side, speaking with police officers, and she was just exercising her constitutional right, which was freedom of speech.
Oh, wow. So, Justine, you're saying there is video footage of her not causing trouble, not being threatening or menacing, talking to police officers, being friendly, being amicable. So you're saying this portrait of her, that she was this crazed insurrectionist who was looking to hang somebody, you're saying that's a complete lie, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a complete lie. That girl was in the military for 14 years. She knew commands, and if she was being told to stand down, she would have done that. And there's, like I said, there's a ton of videos out there. The media and the news are not releasing them. The J6 jury there with, what's her name, Liz Cheney and all of them, why do they have to, get rid of all the evidence? There's a ton of evidence out there. They're just not showing everybody, but there will be justice. I pray to God, and I will say this. I will tell everybody that's listening right now, Trump is one of the best, if not the best presidents we've had in our lifetime. That man single-handedly called my cousin multiple times on his own and reached out to my cousin, made sure that he was all right, and if he needed anything, here's his number, get in touch with him.
Justine, final question before I let you go. Why do you think Byrd murdered your cousin-in-law? Why did he murder Ashli Babbitt, in your view?
I don't think he was really good with a gun. I think that he panicked. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say assuming, but I'm not Michael Byrd. But clearly, my brother was a sniper in Tel Afar in 2005. He's clearly not a good marksman. He panicked.
Basically, he lost his nerve, correct? There was a crowd. He wasn't and I don't know if you've heard about everything that's coming out about his background and his past.
Oh, I'm very well aware.
He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop.
Very dirty cop.
He mishandled his gun. He discharged his gun inappropriately multiple times. He should never have been a police officer. He should have been fired and let go countless occasions. So you're saying, Justine, you think... Go ahead.
There's another article that just came out about him leaving his post to go play cards. He's very irresponsible.
So you're saying you think he just lost his nerve. He panicked, and, he saw the crowd, and he just started to shoot, correct?
Well, yeah, from what I've read and from what I've gathered, he yelled shots fired, and there were no shots fired. The only shot fired was him shooting my cousin's wife.
Unbelievable. I fingers crossed. Justine, I'm not going to let this issue go. And please go ahead, Justine. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to call. I've actually, I've never listened to your radio station before. I work in construction. I'm in Boston right now. I'm on my break, but my buddy called and he said, they're talking about January 6th, and I just thought, it was important that I made a call and just reach out because Ashli is not what the Democrats, what the left have been painting of her. She, like I said, was one of the most patriotic people I've ever met in my life, and she was no harm, no foul.
Justine, thank you very much for calling in. Please don't be a stranger. You call anytime you want, okay? And give my best to Ashli's husband and your cousin. Justine, thank you very much for that call. Look, I think it's the perfect way to end the show. She was a patriot. She was peaceful. She did nothing to deserve this. And I hope Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. You reopen that investigation into Michael Bird, you press charges, and you throw the book at that murderer. Because he killed her in cold blood. Justice for Ashli Babbitt. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.